Hello, everybody. This is the course on Gandhi and King, Soul Force and Social Change. I'm Michael Sunleitner, and I'm the facilitator of this course. This is session number, I lose the count, 18, I believe. It is our third session relating to Martin Luther King Jr. We have completed 15 relating to Gandhi. In the first two sessions on Martin Luther King Jr., we spent time looking at his youth, the influences upon him when he was young, and also in college and in seminary, and also in graduate school at Boston University. Yesterday, our second session on King, we looked at his assumptions, somewhat in comparison with Gandhi. And I think because I was very long-winded, maybe there is so much to discuss, we didn't completely cover as well as I would like Martin Luther King's assumptions, particularly relating to the rule of law. Today, the focus will be on Martin Luther King's beliefs, which I think are more easily presented. And we will repeat this. But for Gandhi, we learned that his trinity of beliefs were truth, love, and voluntary suffering. Tapas, ahimsa, and Satya, ahimsa, and tapas. That you would seek truth through love and with the willingness to suffer. That was Gandhi's message in a very simple way. King's message is very different. King's message is love, power, and justice. The love is still there. The nonviolence is still there. But I'm not sure what I'm hearing there. A little feedback. But for King, love and power must be joined in order to have justice. And it reflects much more of a dualism. The love of power is dangerous. Love, which is God, must be joined with the power that is human to have justice in this world. So God must guide human beings in their use of power to bring about justice. That is the simple trinity of King. Love, power, and justice. And we will repeat that so that you can understand that basic idea. And of course, anything becomes more complicated if you look at it carefully. So before we get into love, power, and justice, is there anything that you would like to discuss, as other people may be joining our session a little late? Information relating to yesterday, questions you may have regarding King's early life? What would you like to spend a little time clarifying if you want? And let us note that this is International Women's Day. So we will make
Happy
sure
Wednesday
that,
to all.
yes, women should be especially active and participating today in honor of International Women's Day.
Hello, can I ask something?
Of course you can, please.
If Luther King relies on political side and encourage people to go to to be in the political region, Gandhi did that otherwise?
Not exactly, but I think Gandhi's view is more, again, introvert and personal. If we rule ourselves, no one can rule over us. There will be a political consequence that is good. The British will leave India. But Gandhi's primary focus was to improve his own understanding of God that is truth, and to encourage people to seek truth and to reform themselves. And there would be a political consequence that is positive. For King, he focuses on the political consequence first. He wants to see the physical structural changes in society, desegregation, and the making democracy more real with voting. And then he believes people will be able to become more liberated on the individual level. So Gandhi puts the individual reform first, politics later, if you will. King puts politics first, and the individual change will be facilitated and come later. So there's a little bit, there's a strong difference in emphasis. Does that make sense, Nidal?
Yeah, clear. Thank you.
It is one reason I really enjoy learning about Gandhi and King for these past 60 years, because they are both great people who are seeking change with a goal that is very similar, but through different emphases. And I myself incorporate elements of Gandhi and King into my own personal worldview. Though I would have to admit to you and to others that overall I am closer to Gandhi than I am to King. That is a personal choice, and it does not need to be yours.
That's obvious anyway, and we respect that.
Yeah, I just want to be honest.
Yeah, that's obvious, really.
Yes.
Good.
So understanding that, when I share about King, feel especially free to ask questions, because I may not be entirely fair. And it is for you, participants in the course, to help me be as fair as I possibly can be towards Martin Luther King and his thinking. Are there others that would like to ask?
May I ask a question?
Of course.
Yes, I yesterday, as we have heard from you, that Martin Luther King was very much inspired by John Locke. Is there any inspiration by Rousseau? Because Rousseau was previously previous philosopher than Locke. So about social contract, about the property and the individualism, and the security by the government, and the fundamental rights, about the fundamental rights, etc. Is there anything from Rousseau, Martin Luther King was inspired? That is the question.
It's a good question. And Jean-Jacques Rousseau, the Frenchman, actually came after Locke, but nevertheless was known by the founding fathers of the United States, was certainly read by Thomas Jefferson and others who are intellectual at the founding of the United States in the 1776 and onwards. I would say that King himself did not read much of Locke or Rousseau. What he gets is the Declaration of Independence by Thomas Jefferson, and the U.S. Constitution, which was inspired by Locke far more than Rousseau.
All right.
It was Locke that comes up with the three branches of government: executive, legislative, judicial. It is Locke that believes in constitutions. And the United States has the first written constitution, at least the first since ancient Sparta in Greece. And so the United States culture was far more influenced by Locke than Rousseau, and Martin Luther King was influenced by that culture.
Okay. It is mentioned that English philosopher, it does mean that he is from England or from USA. I have no idea.
Locke was
That
British.
Rousseau is a English philosopher. Locke was
Locke was
British.
British,
And
Rousseau
Rousseau?
was French. Rousseau was French. Rousseau had a great
I have heard that
influence.
Thomas Hobbes. Oh, yeah, Hobbes, Locke, and
Hobbes
Rousseau.
was,
Yeah, Hobbes is the first one. Yeah, huh. Okay. I confused myself. Sorry.
that's
First
okay.
Hobbes, and then Locke, and then Rousseau, right? Yeah.
Correct.
Hmm.
These were the social contract philosophers,
Yes.
big ones. And there were
Yes.
many others, but it was Locke that influenced the United States the most. And because of that, influenced King the most.
Yes. I understood now.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So thank you, Lubna. So far, we have had insights from Bangladesh and from Lebanon. We are multicultural in our group here. For those who are watching this recording, I hope that you can benefit from the wide range of people and views that are expressed. I think I will begin, if that is okay, since it's 20 past the hour. And that will allow us to have a focused discussion on Gandhi's beliefs and King's beliefs in connection with them for the next 40 minutes or so, and then we will have time for discussion. As before, we will see how many people are involved, whether we want to break into small groups. That will be decided later. Chat room small groups are always good, I think, if we can do it, and if it makes sense. That can be your choice. So let us look at King's beliefs. Again, you will remember that Gandhi believes love is the only means to truth, and it requires voluntary suffering to show great love. So truth is achieved through nonviolence or love with a willingness to suffer. That is Gandhi's message to us. King's basic message is that love and power are separate. Love comes from God, power comes from human beings, and you must have both love and power combined to have justice. King shows a much more dualistic separation of God and human beings, of love and power, and he talks about God and human beings must be co-workers in the fight for justice. People must be inspired by the love of God in their use of power to bring about justice. That is his basic message. And that basic message comes from a white theologian by the name of Reinhold Niebuhr. Niebuhr. Reinhold Niebuhr is a U.S. Protestant theologian at Union Theological Seminary in New York for over 30 years. And he was very influential while King was in seminary and in graduate school. Many people read Niebuhr. We will discuss Niebuhr. But it is Niebuhr who will say, love without power is anemic, weak. Power without love is immoral. You must have both love and power to bring about justice. This is not an original Martin Luther King idea. This comes directly from Reinhold Niebuhr, who's a great influence upon King's thinking. We will repeat this several times. Love without power is weak. Power without love is immoral. You must have both power and love to bring about justice. King's Trinity is love, power, and justice. Gandhi's Trinity of beliefs was truth, love, and suffering. So you can see what Gandhi and King have in common, of course, is a strong belief in love or nonviolence. Now, let us look then at King's philosophical religious views on love, that core religious philosophical belief. For King, and we can see from our handout, which you can, if you want, a screenshot, it might be helpful for you to help take notes and to be able to understand what is being said. You can see that love is seen as by King as the creative spirit of God. It is present through all of creation. God is love for King. For Gandhi, God is truth. There's a difference. For King, God is love, and Jesus is the embodiment of God's love that inspires us to be loving ourselves by his example. Jesus is not the only embodiment of love, but this is, of course, King is a Christian, and Jesus is, for King, the central role model that he seeks to follow and be inspired by. Okay, what does King mean by love? King is educated and distinguishes between three different types of love, which are in the Greek. There's agape, which is self-sacrificing love, the love of a mother for their child, the willingness to suffer, if necessary, for the sake of the child or for others. In a sense, it is kind of mother love. Men can have it, but on International Women's Day, let us celebrate a mother's love, agape, the term in the Greek that is meant for self-sacrificing love. This is really what King is talking about. King says, I'm not discussing philia, which is the love of friends. I'm not discussing eros, which is sexual or erotic love. I am talking about agape, where you love others even if they don't love you. Agapic love, one-sided, freely given, and reflecting for King the creative spirit of God in this world. Now, King clearly believes that nonviolence and love, the agapic ideal, is embodied in Jesus's teachings and life actions. And as a Baptist minister, of course, this was central to many of his sermons. If you would like to read his sermons, they were published in a book called Strength to Love. Strength to Love. It has many of his most famous sermons. I might add that I've read very carefully Strength to Love, and I've read, again, all of the original sermons that King gave that are in the Martin Luther King archives at the King Center in Atlanta. Some of the published sermons have been revised for publication. This, again, I think is part of a concern of King's family and others to preserve the image of Martin Luther King as a very orthodox Christian who should not be rejected because of their unusual theology. In his original sermons, King does talk about Jesus's life and teachings, but Jesus is a human being when he speaks from the pulpit. He is not the Son of God. King does not talk about Jesus as the Son of God. And so you have to be very careful about when you read published writings like the book Strength to Love, that you might be not fully understanding King's very liberal Christian views. That's just a tangent. So he would emphasize Jesus's teachings. For example, Jesus's opposition to the death penalty. In the Gospels of the Bible, Jesus is reported to have said, in the presence of a woman who was to be stoned to death for adultery. Under Jewish law, this was a acceptable punishment for someone who was unfaithful to her husband. Jesus says to the crowd, "You who have no sin, cast the first stone." King says, "You who have no sin, you support the death penalty. You fire the gun in the firing squad. You do it. Are you without sin? Is anyone without sin?" Jesus and King are aligned here. They are saying that let God punish or forgive the woman or the murderer or the person who has committed the crime. It is not for human beings who are themselves sinful and imperfect to undertake these punishments. King is opposed to the death penalty as he believes Jesus in the Gospels was opposed to the death penalty because nonviolence requires that we forgive. And it is for God to judge our actions. We are too imperfect to be taking other people's lives, to be playing God. So Jesus is central for King. You understand, even if he doesn't theologically see Jesus as the only Son of God, he sees Jesus as a prime example of righteousness, who we should seek to follow and be inspired by. This is his liberal Christianity. And we should reflect Jesus and the love of God in our actions, both personal and political. So King certainly believes in love, agapic love, actively present in how we behave in this world. And in that regards, he's very, very similar to Gandhi. The difference, of course, is that Gandhi believes love is inherently powerful. Inherently powerful. While King believes love that is God gave up their power so that we could have free will. So there's this dualism in Martin Luther King that we don't see in Gandhi. A dualism that says there is man and there is God, human beings and God. There is power, there is love. They are separate. And again, I will repeat, Niebuhr, love without power is weak and anemic. Power without love is immoral. You must have power guided by love, human beings guided by God, that is love, to have justice. There's this combination. God has voluntarily limited his or her power in this world, has given up much of it so that human beings can have free will and make choices. That is fundamental to King. And it's a dualism that we do not find in Gandhi. That is the concept of power that is on the outline. You can see it. God's all-powerfulness, omnipotence, is self-limited, giving humans free will. King believes this. It is foundational. Love without power is anemic. Power without love is immoral. You need both power and love for justice. Does that basic dualism ring true to you? That is a very important issue. In Western culture, broadly speaking, Judeo-Christian, Islamic culture, dualism is very, very commonplace. This binary way of looking at God and human beings. Gandhi and many Eastern traditions, Jain, Buddhist, do not have the same separation. And so this is a fundamental sort of way of looking at the world difference that each of you might be well encouraged to think. How do I look at the world? Which way makes more sense to me? Let us stop for a moment and discuss this love-power relationship. And then we will go on to discuss the justice. What do you think about this? Those of you who are with us at this moment? Nilu, Shushil, perhaps you can speak and be unmuted today. Lubna, you want to speak? Please do so. Can you unmute, Lubna?
Yes, Michael, I'm listening to you.
Very good. Shushil, do you want to say anything?
I need some time, Michael. I need some time.
That is fine. These are complicated issues, and I'm sorry if I'm not being very funny in presenting them. They are serious. What can I say? They impact the way we look at the world and how we behave towards other people. They will directly relate to our chosen strategies for social change. How we think impacts how we behave. And today we are looking at how Martin Luther King thinks, his worldview, his beliefs. If others want a little bit more time, that is fine.
As you have mentioned to say, as you have said that with power and love, we can make justice. So without power and love, without love, will it be injustice every time? Like what is happening in Bangladesh now? That there is a interim government, and we are 18 crore people in Bangladesh. 68 districts are there, and our polices are not strong enough like previous, because that time there is a government, those who are elected one, and we love each other. We have interim government to support us, but everywhere there are mob justices. How do you define this situation in the current perspective in Bangladesh?
Well, of course, I would say you know your
And
own
violence
reality.
are there.
You know your own reality better than I can. But I think to your fundamental question, Martin Luther King would say yes. That is, if you have power being exercised without love, a great example would be Adolf Hitler, you will have tremendous destruction because it will be the will of the stronger, unguided by any moral guideposts. And that person may choose to exterminate 6 million Jews. That person can, with the power they have, if it is highly, highly centralized, engage in tremendously destructive actions without the love of God. Many people would say, well, God will take care of things. King will say, no. God is love, but has given their power to us. God is not going to save Bangladesh. God is looking to human beings who are made in his image to act properly in accordance with righteous guidelines, love.
But
So
it requires huge education, not necessarily all the time in school education or college, but in 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 it has huge education to teach our society people, our village people, our human beings, who those are in Bangladesh, that which is right and which is what is wrong. They are doing it out of nothing, and they are creating problems in the society. Where there are education is high, level of education is high, you will not see this kind of situation.
Certainly, King believes in educate, educate, educate. Well, we're discussing his strategies, and that is key. Educate, educate, educate. King is a student of the Enlightenment. He believes in reason. He believes that human beings can choose good systems, use their power well. You don't have to be like Adolf Hitler. You don't have to have chaos. You can create a constitution that will help to restrain otherwise selfish, competitive individuals. This is Martin Luther King's point of view. You need a rule of law that is just. How do you get that? Listen to God, that is love. Use power guided by love, and you can have justice. Do not listen to God, Muhammad, Buddha, whoever your prophet is. Do not listen, and you will have incredibly destructive behavior. Ali, what do you think of this?
Oh, yes. I think it's something that we need to really critically think about it. And when we talk about power, I think to me, I think power is the ability to make things done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the ability to make things done. So if we have free will as humans, and we have the ability to make things done, how do we want to make them done? And this reminded me of the power theory, peace theory from Kennedy Boulding. Nowadays, people don't talk about him.
We may have a connectivity problem.
And violent kind of power. But again, he talks about the interactive power.
Yes, and
He
of course,
talks about interactive power, which is more of non-violent kind of power, which I think as people or as non-violent practitioners, that is the way to go about it in the contemporary period.
I think one thing that Gandhi and King would agree with is that power is a relationship. My ability to get things done depends upon you and others.
Yes.
I can threaten other people. I will kill you all if you do not attend the next session of this seminar. I can threaten you. And if I am Donald Trump with military bases everywhere, maybe I can follow through on the threat. But if you say no, Michael, I will not come to the seminar tomorrow. But I will kill you. Then kill me. If you decide to not be part of my relationship, I have power only to kill you. I don't have power to make you do anything against your will. I might be able to kill you, but I can't make you act in a way that I would want you to act. If you refuse, the relationship will be broken. And then, as a power crazy person, I will have a lot of dead bodies. But I cannot rule over dead bodies. Dead bodies cannot do anything for me, right? So power without love is immoral and basically destroys itself. Eventually, it destroys itself because you cannot live by threat alone. As soon as people refuse to obey, refuse to cooperate, engage in civil disobedience, the power structure collapses. Both Gandhi and King understood this relationship of power. And that is the power of nonviolence. Nonviolence can destroy power structures. I refuse to pay taxes, kill me. That will not make me pay taxes. If you have no taxes, you have no military. There will be no pay. There will be no pay for them. If Hitler's soldiers refuse to obey their orders, Hitler has no power. He cannot kill 6 million Jewish people by himself. He needs compliance. He needs people to follow his orders. Yes? So both Gandhi and King understood that power is a relationship among people. Theologically, they had this difference. Because, again, Gandhi would say power is inherently in love. Love is inherently powerful. They are united. The most powerful force in the universe is love for Gandhi. And God is within us. So there's not this separation of God and human beings as being separate. It's not binary. For Gandhi, it's united already. All we need to do is surrender to the love of God within us that is already there, our soul. We are not separate from God. But for King, we are separate from God. There is God and there is human beings, and there is Jesus in between who inspires us to understand God better. So for King, the way he thinks, you need to have the love of God, which is weak without human power to engage it in this world. And this leads King to be willing to be far more coercive. He would talk about nonviolent coercion, powerful love, God and human beings working together for change. and that is justice. Let us discuss justice a little bit now. That third belief of King, justice. Now, this is an interesting observation. Power not guided by love never yields privilege voluntarily. King believed this. A powerful person or group will not give up their power unless they are forced to. Hitler will not give up his power unless he is forced to. King does not sort of depend upon individual conversion. It may happen, but King does not depend upon George Wallace, the governor of Alabama, to have a change of heart. He doesn't depend upon the lion in the lion's den to have a change of heart. For a king, you need to control the power of George Wallace. You need to cage the lion and prevent the lion from doing harm. You need to use coercive power because the lion is not going to voluntarily lay down with the lamb in biblical terms. For King, Hitler must be forced out of power. George Wallace must be forced to change the laws of Alabama in the United States. The lion must be forced to not eat you because that is their primary desire. Do you understand? This is very different from Gandhi. King is not trying to convert people first. He is trying to coerce them first. The white supremacists will not give up their power just because of good argument. They will not give up their power just because many people suffer because of their actions. For King, those who are in power and acting immorally will give up their power only when they are forced to. Then you have the foundation for justice. King believes that every age has a power elite class. You can see that he has been influenced a little by Karl Marx. There is a power elite, and that power elite will oppress others, and that power elite will not give up their power voluntarily. They must be forced. Again, I think I mentioned earlier yesterday that King read in graduate school a book called The Power Elite by C. Wright Mills. C. Wright Mills was an American who argued that a power elite in the United States rules the United States, that we really don't have a democracy in the United States. This is an observation from the early 1950s, over 70 years ago. C. Wright Mills believes that the wealthy control the United States, that those who have gold rule the United States, that they control elections, they give money to campaigns, they bribe officials, they write the laws to benefit themselves. A power elite rules. Democracy is not real in the United States. Martin Luther King read this book, and he believed that that is true. The primary kind of obstacles to justice are power not guided by love and by a power elite that are not guided by the common good. They're guided only by their own selfish desire for more wealth. Remember also that King believes that racial, economic, and other barriers harm your personality. They prevent you from becoming all that you can be, a fully blossomed artist or athlete or poet. The barriers that separate us that are physical, they can be segregation on the basis of race. They can be economic, based upon economic class. They can be religious, where Christians or Muslims or others are dominant and do not allow others to properly worship. For King, these barriers, these walls that we create, are not created by us. They're created by the elite ruling class, by the power elite, and they're created for their benefit. We, the people, need to break down those barriers. We need to confront the power elite. We need to force those who have power, unguided by love, to change their policies. Physical force that has moral, it's guided, our force is guided by love. But power must combat power. Immoral power must be combated by physical, moral power, inspired by Jesus and others, inspired by the love of God. And fundamentally, for King, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. This is a direct quote from King. So it's not enough to work for justice within your own community or within your own nation. You must work towards justice worldwide. A threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. To discriminate and oppress women on International Women's Day or any other day hurts everyone because we're all interconnected. For King, men must fight for women's rights. White people must fight for the rights of Black people. We must work together as one humankind to make greater kindness the norm. A quote from King, and then we can again open it up to questions. On my handout, you can see King often quoted a white poet by the name of James Russell Lowell, an American poet. In the conflict between new idea systems and old idea systems, quote, truth forever on the scaffold, wrong forever on the throne, yet that scaffold sways the future. For those of you who have English as a challenging second or third language, scaffold is a structure where people may be hanged to death as an execution. So what Lowell is saying and what King is saying is truth seems always to be in danger of being executed. It's on a scaffold with a rope around its neck. And wrong seems to always be on the throne. People not guided by God, but exercising power, always seem to be the kings or the power elite. They're the ones who are deciding to execute people. And yet King says that scaffold sways the future. In other words, truth embodied in a person may be executed, but truth itself may become more strong. Early Christians under the Roman Empire were executed in large numbers in the Colosseum of Rome, often fed to lions for the entertainment of the masses of Rome. And yet those executed Christians, while they died, their truth lived on. Their willingness to die for what they believed lived on, inspired other people to become Christians. And eventually, about 320, 340 AD, under Emperor Constantine, Christianity becomes the state religion of Rome. You repress, you repress, you repress, you execute, you execute, you execute. But for King, eventually, truth that embodies justice will emerge victorious. The arc of the moral universe bends towards justice, King would say. In other words, there is a movement towards justice, a more just world. And you can see it, according to King, if you look historically, there are different epochs of human beings. This is Hegel again, yes? This is kind of Marx, where you move from one dominant period of ideas that perhaps accepts slavery, and then through conflict and the zeitgeist, the spirit of the age, moves to another epoch where slavery is abolished. But slavery perhaps is not entirely abolished. In the next epoch, perhaps it is indentured servitude, or it is wage slavery, where you are not slaves with chains on, but the chains are economic, and you are controlled by an elite power class of billionaires that control the economy. That, King says, will have to eventually be fought, and you will have another epoch, and you are moving towards justice. You are moving towards, for King, a world where everyone will have what is due to them. Justice is giving to each their due. And what is due to you, for King, we will see in his goals tomorrow, or next Thursday. We'll see in his goals what is due is you have the right to life, which means you have the right to food, shelter, clothing. You have the right to health care. You have the right to social relationships, which include the right to education, the right to live in a home anywhere you want. You have the right for security that needs to be provided by the state. If you are remembering Maslow's hierarchy of needs, King is very much in this tune with Gandhi here. You need to help satisfy people's basic needs, both physiological and relationships. You need to then also have security needs fulfilled. You need to have self-respect and respect for others fulfilled. And then eventually you can have self-actualized people. King's goal is self-actualized people in a society where justice prevails and their basic needs are provided for by the government. And I will look forward to encouraging that next Thursday, Friday, Saturday, when we continue with our focus upon Martin Luther King.